They're not looking for the piece of paper or the product. They're looking for the outcomes.
Today, my guest is someone who lives on both sides of the mic. Paul Sweeney runs Pretium Solutions in Sydney, advising small, medium business, and he's also the host of the Business Behind Your Business. Paul, welcome. Thanks for joining us. For anyone who hasn't come across you yet, can you give us a quick version of what you do and what Pretium does as well?
Sure. Look, I focus working on small, medium-sized businesses as an accountant and business advisor. Small, medium businesses are, I guess, my passion, wanting to help them grow, succeed, thrive, prosper. So giving them the advice to set up their business correctly, operate their business efficiently, grow profits, and then invest those profits outside of the business to accumulate wealth and help them exit from the business when that time comes. The small, medium business passion, I've been working with them for over 30 years. And that's also led into why we have the podcast, the Business Behind Your Business podcast, getting great quality resources, guest interviews to help small, medium business, no matter where they're located.
Perfect. So you spend much of your career helping business owner move forward, right? Not just stay compliant. So what pull you toward advisory rather than staying purely on tax and compliance?
I guess why go to advisory, the key thing was very early on, there was a frustration that small, medium business was really hard done by. They weren't getting quality advice. They were purely getting tax and compliance, which was not helping them run their business. Now, when I started was a day where not everybody in an accounting office actually had access to a computer. So you were sharing resources. Clients didn't have their own accounting software. They didn't have computers. You got a lot of information in a manual format. It was tedious. It was time consuming and it wasn't timely. Business owners were finding out about their results, 9, 10, 11 months after the end of the year, not being able to make decisions, not informed decisions, and really on the back foot in terms of growing their business. So there had to be a better way. What could we do to actually equip small, medium business owners to do better, to make better decisions, to feel, more confident about the decisions they're making and actually grow their business?
Yeah, that was a fantastic shift. So what changed in your conversation with clients from that point on?
I guess the first thing we looked at is how can we improve the process of getting their financial information? How can we improve the process of capturing the data, but processing it quicker and then educating them on what those figures actually meant? What do the figures mean? What is a profit and loss? What does the balance sheet represent? What is a liability? Looking at things like margins, how to price their products better or how to focus on growing their profitability. Because if they didn't know where they were coming from, it's very hard to move forward. So we very quickly looked at, well, how can we capture that data quicker? How can we process it? How can we educate them on what it actually means? And then start having the discussion about, well, how do we increase profit? How do we increase sales? How do we manage our expenses? How do we become more efficient in what we're doing?
In our earlier chat, you mentioned that a lot of firms end up selling tools instead of outcomes. So what does the actual exactly look like inside a firm?
Okay, so I think we get fast forward and we're looking in the last 10 years particularly. What we've seen is a lot of technology develop and a lot more capability. So we've moved way beyond just the basic accounting ledger, the basic tax return, financial statements, and we're starting to look at, well, how can we create advisory products and services to clients? I think we've missed the point in some of that is because we've jumped to selling a product or a report rather than selling the outcomes that the client needs. And what we've seen is there's some great products out there, but accountants particularly are trying to sell advisory services by selling the tool, selling the report, not selling the process, outcomes, and benefits to the client. And so a lot of our marketing was around, okay, we're going to introduce this new service, which might be called a spotlight report, and we'll sell that spotlight report. But what we're not selling is the ability to forecast what will happen in different scenarios, what that means for your cash flow. Does that mean that you need to borrow? Does it give you more information about how to make a better decision? Does it indicate that you've got an issue with profitability, margins? If you add new stuff, what's the cash impact? The benefits of seeing in the future is the advantage, the solution that the client's looking for. They're not looking for the piece of paper or the product to tell them what we're doing, they're looking for the outcomes. And we, as an accounting industry, tended to focus on selling the benefits of the software tool that we were using to produce the report, not the outcomes to the client.
And what makes that such an easy trap for accountants?
I think a very easy trap is that we see the software, we see the outcome, we see the costs that we're paying, and we want to recover that. And we're looking at how can we maximize selling that tool or that product to many different clients. The way I like to do it instead is look at what's the outcome and the solution I'm delivering to the client. What are the steps in the process? And then look at how do we actually do that? What do we need to make that happen? What tool do we need to use? So we're not actually selling the tool. We're not selling the software. We're not selling the report. We're selling the outcomes and the process and working with the client. It's like if I'm getting a plumber to come and do some work at my house, I'm not going to ask him, which brand of power tools do you use? Because if you're only using Makita, that's fine, I'll use you. But if you're using some other brand of power tool, I'm not interested. That's not the way it works. But when you get the plumber, you want him to fix the job. You don't care which brand of tool he's using. What you want is the best outcome, the solution. You want the problem solved. And that's how our clients view us. They're not interested in you use XYZ software. They want to see that you can actually help them fix the business problem, identify it, fix it, move forward, grow their business. That's what they're looking for.
That's a fantastic perspective. Yeah. And I see as a business owner myself, I see exactly that. When I'm after accountant, I want the outcome and I want not just the numbers in a piece of paper and then I want something that will help me grow my business as well and not the tools they're using. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So have you seen firms break out of that mindset successfully?
Look, I think there are a lot more of them doing that. A lot more have moved away from that. I think we got caught up in the excitement of cloud technology. We got caught up in the excitement of all the new things that we can do. It's like you've got a new piece of equipment and you want to be able to use all the buttons and show it all off. But that's not what it was. So I think we've actually come a bit full circle and that we're actually having more face-to-face conversations with clients, really understanding what are their pains, what do they need help with, what are they trying to achieve in their business and working through that. I think we've now moved beyond, we've got the bright shiny object to let's help our clients achieve the best outcomes they can.
Yeah, I think nowadays the tools we have, it helps you to do this, right? Because you can automate a lot of things in the back end and you use your time to, create a relationship with your clients. I think that's fantastic change nowadays.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
I think back to, I guess, pre-zero, pre-cloud technology. Yeah, we were working with clients providing advisory services. And part of that was actually, analyzing the management reports, doing the KPI analysis, coming up with benchmarking, having the discussions about growth, looking at growth. But the biggest issue was getting the data out of the accounting system in a timely manner and an efficient manner to be able to do the advisory work in a timely manner and at a good price that was one where we were going to make a profit and two, the client was not going to balk at the cost and think, well, there's no benefit, that the cost of the service outweighed the benefit they were getting. It was just too time consuming, too manually intensive. We didn't have connectors, we didn't have integrations, and it was a major stumbling block. But and fast forward today, we've got the integrations. We can seamlessly transfer data, extract data between systems, and get to the point of actually identifying what the numbers mean and the conversations we need to have.
It's an absolute fantastic change, I think. Do you see a lot of firms going to this, route, the advisory?
Well, I think there's always talk that compliance is dead, but we always have tax laws. We always have new rules. And what we're seeing is that a lot of people are still busy on that treadmill doing the compliance work. With the shortages of available qualified staff, we've fallen back into, I guess, the need to spend more time doing the client. And that's been a trap for a lot of small, medium businesses or small, medium practices, particularly the sole person. They may have one or two key staff. They just don't have the resource capabilities to do the advisory work or the understanding. The other trap I'm seeing, and I've been warning about this for many years, is that we're relying too much on the technology. Some of the younger entrants into our profession, into the accounting and advisory system, they're taking the numbers provided by the systems at face value. They're not actually querying or understanding, how do we get to that number? How does that make sense? Why is that so? Why is that wrong? So they're missing a lot of that understanding. And if you're not understanding what the numbers mean, it makes it very hard to explain it to a client. So we're missing some of those early steps in our education process. And I do blame the universities and government quite a bit on this. We are missing the foundations of understanding what the accounting numbers mean. And then the other side of it is we need to be able to explain it in a language that our clients are going to understand.
Yeah. I never thought about that, to be honest. All technology do a lot of the work well, it can do. I understand that a lot of accountants and firm owners are still trapped exactly in the compliance because they don't have the time actually to look and automate the systems, right?
I think part of the issue is that we're so busy working in the compliance. I guess we'll call it a hole. We're digging the hole. We're digging fast. We've got to keep working and digging. What we need to do is stop digging and think about, well, what are we actually digging in the right place? Are we using the right tools, methodology? Start thinking about what's the purpose of what we're doing. When we're constantly doing and doing and doing, we're not taking time out. We're not stepping aside how we're working on our businesses so that we can improve our clients' businesses. We need to actually take that time out and, end of year, January, great time for accountants because life slows down. It's a good time to think about what you're doing, what are you actually doing, wanting to achieve in the next year, and make those changes, plan to make those changes.
What outcome do they consistently care about, regardless of what tools are being used behind the scenes?
Look, I generally say that the biggest concerns of business owners fall into three main areas: cash flow, profit, employees, managing those three issues. Employees, there's a lack of understanding and also a lack of, I guess, skill set to manage your employees effectively. Cash flow is the biggest concern, I think, because wanting to know what's the effect on my cash flow if I take a course of action. Why is my cash flow reducing? Why when I'm showing a profit, am I not showing positive cash flow? How do I correct this? So being able to understand what the cash flow means and the strategy moving forward, that's the biggest concern. But there's still a reluctance to actually invest in getting that advice. A lot of them are purely managing on the bank statement and the list of bills. They're not actually forward thinking. And I think we need to work with our clients, and it's a conversation we need to have face to face. It's not a conversation you can have via email. You need to actually talk to somebody and be in front of them and actually work through the issues that they're having. Because a lot of the time they will talk to you about what's really keeping them awake at night, and it's not tax. Okay, we like to think it is tax, but there are other concerns. And generally it comes back to cash flow, not enough income, and issues with managing employees or unproductive employees or not having enough employees, or how do I pay for those employees?
Yeah.
So we need to get in front of our clients and actually have real conversations.
What tends to surprise accountants when they have to shift to the outcome first conversations?
I think there's a fear of, for a lot of people, actually getting in front of clients and feeling how they change the conversation from being around tax and accounting to growth, to strategy. Some feel unprepared for it. And I think a lot of the time we've got so used to doing everything by Zoom or email or automations that we've forgotten to actually have those conversations with clients. Now, one of the things I would say there is we often make the decision for our client before we even have the conversation with them. And sometimes we make that decision because we think we can't explain it well enough, or we just don't think they're going to do it, or they don't have the money or their time, or it's not something they're interested in. But when we make that decision for them, and we don't actually have the conversation, we don't ask the question, the answer is always going to be no. And I think sometimes we think we have to have it perfect before we start. If we ignore that and just get started, have the conversation, and don't make the decision of no for the client, you will be surprised by the number of outcomes. So we actually went through this process. I've been through this process implementing consulting divisions with two different accounting firms with very different results. So the first firm, we looked at our accounting client base and we looked at there were issues they were having. So we decided to move forward with consulting. And we looked at the tools, we decided what tools to use, but then we had a decision where we would offer this service to every single business client, every single one. And what was surprising was the clients that we didn't think would take it up were the ones that wanted it the most. They embraced it the most, they needed it the most. So we grew revenue very quickly. We added another 76% of revenue within 6 months just by offering the service to clients and taking the time to explain it to them, not just sending a letter or an email, but actually having a phone call, a meeting with them and explaining what that service was. Fast
And it's
forward to,
surprising how people want that, right? I think the accountants, not all accountants realize that.
well, I think sometimes we don't know our clients well enough and we don't take the time to have those conversations with them. And if you're making assumptions about what people want, generally you're going to make the wrong one. And if you're not talking to your clients, you're not going to know what's on their mind. You're not going to know what their concerns are. The only way you're going to find out about it is if they start getting somebody else to do that service because that person asked them the question, that person took the interest in them. So we need to come back and ask those questions. And like when we dangerously make that assumption of no, if I go forward to the next firm where I was given the task of implementing a consulting division, I was given very, very tight restrictions. I wasn't allowed to approach every client. I was only allowed to pick the top 10 clients, but in that top 10 clients, I was only actually allowed to speak to 6 or 7 of them. As a result, we only had 1 or 2 clients actually take up the services. Big opportunities to add value to those clients, to work with them, to grow their businesses, and of course, grow the revenue base from consulting because we made the decision of no for those clients before we even had the discussion with them.
Interesting. So why do you think firms hesitate to offer advisory more broadly?
I think there's a fear of the unknown. There's also, I guess there's a bit of that imposter syndrome that comes around that I'm not good enough, I can't do this. There are other people out there doing it better. But in terms of that, what I would say is that a lot of the times I'll go to events and I'll have conversations and the experts out there presenting, and I'm sitting there thinking, I actually know my material better than he does, but he's the one stepping on stage telling everybody. I have that skill. You've got the skill, you've got the training, you've got the background, you are equipped. And the client isn't going to judge you by how polished your performance is. They're going to judge you by the questions you're asking and the concern that you take and the genuine interest in them. A lot of the times we limit what we're capable of doing because we sell ourselves short. We actually have the training, the skills, and the expertise. It's a case of going out there. And I think the other thing is we're comparing our first attempt to somebody's, 1,000th attempt. Okay.
Experience, yeah.
When you do it 1,000 times, you're going to be a lot more polished than the first time you do it. And if you go back and watch their first attempt, it's going to be pretty ordinary. It's going to be a bit cringy. But we limit ourselves thinking by comparing ourselves to other people who've been doing it for longer. We've got the skills, we've got the training, we've got the expertise, the knowledge. And if we start to show the genuine concern with our clients, the conversations come easier, the work will come in.
100%. I think that applies to all industries, right? I think you need to act and learn. I think that everybody starts at some point, right?
Absolutely. You've got to start somewhere. Your first attempt today is nowhere near as good as your 100th attempt because you learn a lot in that process. But unless you take that first step, that first attempt, you're never going to get to your 100th attempt. You're not going to have
Absolutely.
those learning experiences. You're not going to get better.
Yeah, so you've seen both sides, firms that offer advisor to all clients and firms that restrict it. So what did those experiences teach you?
Well, I think one of the key ones is don't say no for your client. Okay. Give them the opportunity. If they say no, you haven't lost anything. But if you say no for them, the chances are they're going to see that somebody else will provide that service to them and you will lose that client. Sometimes the clients will go and get somebody else to do advisory work, planning, coaching, because they don't know that you have those skills and expertise because you've never told them. You've never told them. I remember having that conversation with a large client in one of my previous roles. And I said, why are you paying a coach to prepare this business plan for you? And I said, that's something that we do. We've got a great knowledge of how your business runs. Why have you gotten and paid this other person? They go, oh, we thought you just did tax and accounting. Nobody ever told us you did business planning and coaching, but we did. But they felt that we never communicated to them. So you've got to tell your clients that you've got the skills and do it. So it's a lot of it comes down to we're either too busy or too scared to have those conversations and promote ourselves. Because I think maybe it's the tall poppy syndrome, but we often sell ourselves short.
Exactly. Yeah, you touched the point because what makes advisory service actually land and get used by clients rather than just becoming another report or meeting? I think we already touched that question there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really comes down to understanding what are their concerns with their business, how do we fix that, and fixing they have by providing a solution, not trying to sell a report or a set of figures, but actually getting them to understand, here's a pain, here's a process that we can actually work on to fix that problem, get a better outcome, but also strengthen your business and help you move forward profitably with better cash flow, more freedom, more time, and just a great business.
So where do firms overcomplicate things?
Well, I think a lot of the time our processes are too complicated. There's too many steps. We actually went through this process within the last year. We actually looked at every single process in our office. And the problem was we had 55 steps when we only needed 7. And the problem when you got 55 steps is you miss something, you overlook it, or there's too many things to follow and you've overcomplicated it. And a lot of the time, by adding all those extra steps, you're adding to the time it takes to deliver, you're adding to the cost of providing the service, you're adding to complexity. Sometimes it's a case of you just need to strip it right back to what is the simple solution you're providing and the simple met process, and just keep it simple. We tend to overcomplicate things.
Amazing.
Um, the other thing is, if you make it a simple process, you can equip other team members to deliver that same service. So it's not relying only on the business owner. You can equip your team to do it because they've got a simple, understandable process that is easy to replicate from client to client to client. And I think we probably micromanage that process too much as accountants.
Sure. And with standard operation methods as well, you can create these standards and pass it on to your team. That's fantastic. So do you think there a smallest change that makes the biggest impact in this?
I think the small change is actually getting started and realizing you don't have to have it perfect before you start. You're going to make mistakes. I think we like to. Our breeding is that we've got to have things perfect. We want a balanced set of accounts. We want supported figures. But when we're coming to advisory, the time it takes to get from 80, 90% perfect to 100%, you lose the value. You've got to move quickly. You've got to be prepared to act. And I think we overcomplicate it. We want to get it too perfect before we start.
This applies to everywhere, right? Like you have a business, you want to do everything perfect. You just need to act. Need to just be ready. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? I think
Yeah.
that's the first
Yeah.
step.
Oh, look, there are certain industries where you absolutely must get it perfect. But I'm thinking of doctors and surgeons. Yeah. Look
Yeah,
at what accountants and advisors are doing. It's not life and death in that situation. Give yourself a
good
bit of
point.
grace.
Good point. So, what do you see any opportunities for accountant advisors in the next few years that many firms may be overlooking?
Look, I think there's still plenty of opportunities. Everybody's concerned about AI and the effect that's having on our ability to advise, because people can go, type in their concerns into AI. They can upload their financial statements and get advice. What the AI is missing is the perspective and the human experience, and the ability to actually work through and brainstorm a lot of the ideas. Yes, it's great for generating content quickly. It can do the financial analysis quickly. That's great. But there is a lot of experience, and I guess the conversations is where those concerns come out, because often what you might put in as a prompt into AI is not the real question. It's not the real concern.
Exactly.
But the experience that we have from many years of working with clients, taxation, accounting, advisory, is that we can see a lot bigger picture than purely the one question that's being asked. We can actually see what's going on. And this is why it's great to actually go and physically see your clients, because you can see a lot more about what is actually going on rather than what's on the Zoom screen. And that gives you a bigger perspective. And often the question they are asking is not the real issue. It's their immediate thing. It's like a symptom, but it's not the cause of the problem. And by asking the right questions, we'll get to the cause and we can fix that. Then those later symptoms will disappear.
Yeah, we talk about this many times, like how AI is changing everything, but will never replace the human factor. So you have a conversation there, you understand deeper. It will definitely can replace the manual, heavy admin work, but the the human side needs to be there at some point. So it will never
Absolutely.
replace fully. That's for sure.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. So AI technology is great. It speeds up that process. Going back to one of my frustrations, the time it took to actually compile the information before you could actually meet with a client and go through, I guess, the value, the actual consulting process with them, getting the data there, being able to extract the key data quickly.
Quickly.
That's a huge thing. That use AI and technology for that, but yeah, have those conversations. That's
Yeah.
where the value is.
I think that's a win for the industry.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
what kind of firm is positioned to take advantage of those opportunities?
I think small firms are a lot more nimble. Okay, we can pivot a lot quicker, but at the same time, a small firm doesn't have the same level of resources. But the technology are there, the tools are there to help us get up and running quicker. There's a lot of training. There's a lot of um, assistance, templates, methods, or suggested ways of actually implementing and how to use the reports, how you might structure a conversation. So there's a lot of guidance there now. It's not a case of you've bought a package or a software tool and you've got to work out how to operate it and then use it. There is a lot more guidance these days around doing that. Small firms are uniquely positioned because we can adapt quicker, and often when you're the sole owner of your business, you've got more scope to make decisions and change your direction very quickly. Where in a larger firm, as death by committee,
Yeah.
you have to get a lot more buy-in. It's a lot easier in a smaller firm where you're a lot more nimble and can change direction and adopt new technologies and new processes quickly.
Yeah, to make a decision fast. Yeah, for sure. So for a firm listening right now that wants to move away from selling tool and towards selling outcomes, what should they focus on over the next 90 days?
I think the first thing is to ask what kinds of clients do you want to work with and what are the solutions that they need or that you can help them achieve. So what kind of work do you want to be doing for that client, and then find the tool that's going to help you do that the best. Okay. There are some great tools out there, some great programs, but it's about what works best in the way that you want to work with your clients. Design your process or the outcomes that you want to achieve first, and then find the tool that's going to help you deliver that. But be a little bit flexible in there. You're not going to find a tool that does it exactly how you want, but then don't redesign your process to fit just how that tool works. The tool's there to support your process, support your outcomes. So, design your outcomes, your processes first, and then find the tool to help you deliver.
Amazing. Now is the right time, people. Just act on it. Amazing. Paul, this has been incredibly insightful. For anyone who wants to follow your work or connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, or they can go to paulsweeneyaccountant.au, and there'll be links to our podcasts and resources and some of also the other conversations I've had with and presentations to our industry.
Perfect. We'll add those links in the show notes. And Paul, thank you so much for joining me on the Ledger today.
It's been
Amazing.
a pleasure. Thank you.